Alright folks, it's Mark here. A bunch of you recently have been messaging me and texting me and calling me and asking me to provide better descriptions of my grilling and cooking procedures. So I thought today I would start by trying to make a little video. We'll see how it goes. And I'm going to go through everything I'll be doing tonight while grilling up a rack of ribs, a London broiled steak, and some butternut squash that has been marinating in olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic, parsley, oregano, as well as lemon, thyme, and basil from our little garden that we have outside. So I'm going to go through the whole process. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. If you think this is something you'd like to hear more from of me, I'll be more than happy to do it. So hang in there, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so I took a nice large rack of ribs and I applied my sweet heat rub to it. Now, one thing you need to do when using any sort of rub, you need to let it set in. This is actually considered marinating. It's going on dry, but it creates a sort of wet coat on the meat. So I applied it around 10-15 minutes ago. I rubbed it in. You're going to have to use a lot of rub. Don't be too shy. When using any sort of rub, you got to really coat it. You got to let it settle in. And understand that during the cooking process, especially when you're using fatty meats like ribs, as the fat starts to render, some of that marinade and that rub is going to start coming off. So don't be afraid to apply it. Next, we have a London broiled steak, which I've coated in salt, pepper, and garlic. Same thing, both sides. And you use a good amount. Be generous with it, because it's not going to come out as salty as you would think. Because again, as the fat begins to render, a lot of that rub is going to come off. And lastly, got some butternut squash that I've cut up into like hockey puck sized pieces. It's marinating in oil with salt, pepper, garlic, lemon, thyme from our garden, basil from our garden, as well as parsley and oregano. All right, we're going to start bringing things out to the grill, and we'll take it from there. One thing that is important when grilling is to allow the charcoal to become white and ashy. Sometimes people who use charcoal have a tendency to not wait until the coals have whitened over. And the problem is now you're going to start putting your meat on top of the grill, and it's going to take on a very nasty, bitter flavor. The idea of using charcoal is to just kiss the meat with a little bit of flavor. You're not looking to overpower it with something that's going to be so bitter that you're not going to be able to enjoy it. Right now, I got my grill pushing close to 350 degrees. I just closed the grill, so now the temperature's starting to rise. Getting close to 375. Got some pretty serious heat under there. I think we'll be ready to put the ribs on in a second. Let's open up the grill. Let's take a look at that lump charcoal. Yep, nice and white and ashy. Very, very hot. I'm definitely going to be working with some serious heat. If you've noticed, I've put all the coals into tin trays. Why do I do this? Well, it makes cleanup a lot easier later on or tomorrow, depending on when the ashes die out. I don't mind cleaning out my grill. I clean it out thoroughly after every single use. But if I can make the job just a little bit easier for myself, I'm going to try to do what I can to help that cleaning up process. Alrighty, now we're going to take the ribs, put them over the coals. I'm using a set of tongs. Never use a fork when turning different types of meat. You start puncturing in, you start losing juices that way. Always use a good set of tongs. That's what I always recommend. And let's see if I can get this stuff off of here without ripping into the meat. Okay, need a little bit of help with that one. Now, always take it and put the heavy meat side face down first. You want to make sure you start getting a good char. You want to start searing the outside. You want to let some of that rub start to caramelize a bit. And again, using a good lump charcoal is always a good idea. You get what you pay for. And if you're going to cheap out, you're not going to have some good results. I found that sometimes using the cheaper grade charcoal, lump charcoal, charcoal briquettes, they burn out and fizzle out and turn to ash and cool off a lot faster than you would want. So the idea is to use some good quality stuff, and you get what you pay for. When starting off, I like to apply the food to the grates and then close the lid a little bit. Always make sure that your chimney, if you have a chimney stack, that you open it a bit. You want to get some good airflow going through there, and that's how you're going to maintain a good amount of heat. If you close off that stack and you don't have any airflow coming in from underneath, your flames are going to die out a little sooner because you're starting to remove the oxygen from the environment, and the fire is not going to last. So you want to see some smoke rolling on that chimney. You know you're doing something good over there. You got some good heat there. You're working. Just keep it the way it is. Now, after a couple of minutes, you want to open things up. You want to turn the meat back to the other side. And again, right now I'm working directly over the coals. Later on, we're going to be using indirect heat, where we're going to be using this side of the grill. But for the time being, we're going to make sure we're using the side that's got the coals. And just let it heat up nicely. Start turning every few minutes. You don't want it to burn. You want to keep on moving it. And you want to make sure you keep a good amount of heat under the meat, but not leaving it on the same side for too long. And if you want to move it around to get some nice cross marks on the food, that's up to you. It makes no difference to me. It doesn't really affect the cooking either way. But we want to make sure at least that we're cooking things evenly and that the rub is starting to caramelize into the meat. Also, something of note, whenever you're preparing ribs, make sure you get the rub on the underside, the bone side. There is still a lot of meat under here. There's a lot of flavor under there. Some people will remove the silver skin, some people don't. It all depends on the mood I'm in. Right now I left the skin on. It's okay. It doesn't really affect the flavor one way or another. But you always want to make sure that at least you're getting rub on the underside where the bones are. Definitely the meat side, but don't forget to throw some rub on the bone side as well. Alrighty, if you've noticed now, I've removed the meat from going directly over the coals. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to close the top, the lid of my grill, and I'm going to allow the ribs to cook with indirect heat. It's going to get all that smoke and all that good stuff from the lump charcoal, but it's not going to be directly over the charcoal as to where it's going to burn. Also, something to note, make sure that your grates are clean. There's nothing worse than when I go to somebody's house and they've got a grill and those grates look like they've never been cleaned at all. Some people will tell you, some of these barbecue guys say that it kind of brings flavor out in the meat. No, it doesn't. It brings out impurities. You have a lot of stuff that's been burned onto those grates, and you're going to impart it into what you're cooking.